Sandra, and I'm part of the West Charleston SPS department, and I want to welcome you all here to West Charleston this afternoon, and thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate your support. Mary, in case you guys haven't gotten her, this is an astrology series. Today is the first day. She'll be back April 6th, so mark your calendar, and save the date, May 4th. She'll be back and to finish up this series, and they're all a little different. So without further ado, let me just say, Mary Swick is better known as the Feng Shui Lady. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we do have her here at least once a year, sometimes more, doing Feng Shui presentations. She was just here a few months ago talking about the Year of the Snake. So, and she'll be back again, of course. She began her company in 1997 using the modalities of astrology and Feng Shui. Mary is dedicated to sharing insightful and empowering information with her clients. Mary's strength is her ability to connect or relate to the clients through their physical environment or their astrological chart. Mary's website is maryswick.com. That's Mary, SWICK.com, where she offers personal astrology consultations varying between 30 and 90 minutes. Mary is a lifelong learner of astrology and loves to share her knowledge of astrology. So without further ado, will you please help me welcome Mary Swick.
Well, thank you, Deandra. That was very, very lovely. I appreciated that very much. Well, thank you for coming this afternoon. I do have a passion for astrology. I love to share it with everyone. More importantly, though, I'm hoping that besides maybe teaching, showing, demonstrating some astrology, I hope you all can learn something about yourself and about your own chart. So I want to give you a little heads up here. It would be very helpful if you knew your time of birth. Now, it's not required. You're certainly going to gain a lot of information over the next 90 minutes. But if you know your time of birth, you're even going to learn a little bit more about yourself, and you'll enjoy it. And if you know children's birth times as well, so there's other people you can take this knowledge and immediately apply, but also to understand kind of what I'm going to call the building blocks, one of the key building blocks of astrology. Those of you maybe who know a lot about astrology already maybe know this, but we have, we have the houses, and we have the signs, and we have the planets. Well, today, most of our conversation is going to be about the houses, but we're going to have to touch on those other two topics because they're so interrelated. So let's go ahead, and just to kind of get you in the right frame of mind, I want you to think about you've been invited to a party, and it's a big party. It's in a house with many rooms, and you go out on the patio, and the group is talking politics, and who's going to be the next president, or who's going to be the next congressperson, or what law should be changed. You go into the dining room, and they're in there. Maybe someone's having a kind of a tight huddle. Looks like they're having a very intimate, personal conversation. You kind of don't know whether you should join in or not. You go out into the living room, and they're talking about movies and fun things and great apps. Did you hear this? Did you see that? My point is this. You have a choice. There's one of those conversations that probably you're more inclined to want to join in on. Maybe you want to join in that private huddle in the dining room because you know it's personal, confidential stuff that's being spoken about, and you love that topic. Or maybe you want to talk about the larger political issues. You know kind of where you want to go, but let's say you're with somebody who wants to go and talk to the guy in the corner about CDs and maturity rates. And because you're with that person, yes, you may go in and join that conversation. Not your number one choice, but you do it anyhow. Well, that's kind of, believe it or not, what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about astrology. We're talking about your chart. I want you to think of a circle. And I want you to think of different sectors of that chart representing different aspects of life. Of course, those of you who may be a little ahead of me that know a lot about astrology is that your planets are placed in these houses, in these locales, in these sectors, and you're more pre-inclined to want to have certain types of discussions or go certain places. But many times you're capable of having other discussions. You're certainly capable of tolerating other circumstances. So today we're going to put the focus on what does it mean for you to have a focus in a particular house. And we're going to look at our first element that we want to, instead of, we're not calling it a planet, right, it's the sun here, or a big star. So the concept of the sun in a chart, in an astrology chart, and just be aware, I'm laying some foundation here in the opening 15 minutes. It's going to get very methodical after that point, and we're going to fill it in, and you're going to grasp it, I think, really quickly. But the sun represents in a chart, and you all probably maybe think, oh, I'm a Pisces, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Cancer. But I want you today to think about the sun means, what are you trying to become? What are you here trying to master? So instead of just claiming I am, I want you to start looking at your sign like I am becoming that. And it's a very subtle difference, but you'll notice some significance in what you throw yourself into sometimes, and maybe what you're trying to learn in life. So I introduced the concept of many rooms, like many mansions in the house here. Which room are you going to go into? Which room do you want to go into versus which ones do you have to go into? Introduce the concept of the sun being very important in this circle. Where do you shine, so to speak? And now let's take a look at just the simple chart. Let's look at the circle as you know it. And one more concept I want to build in here before we take off is that the astrological chart is really a clock. And most of us don't think of it as a clock. But those of you who really know astrology well know if someone says to you that they're born between 10 a.m. and noon, you instantly know that their sun is very high in their chart. And you can grasp this image here where 6 a.m. is on the east or the left of the chart. And then we go incrementally up, and high noon, appropriately so, is at the top of the chart. And we come down to 6 p.m. and then come down to midnight, and we circle back. So, what I'm saying to you, if you enjoy this topic this evening, I challenge you all to ask someone. Don't ask them what sign they are. Ask them what time they were born. And you'll instantly be able to say something of intelligence to them about themselves. So, just as and this is a perfect day to be talking about this. Why? Because we're moving our clocks, right? Later tomorrow morning, 2 a.m. So the only thing you have to take into consideration is daylight savings time, right? Because this is never going to change. If someone says they're born at 6 a.m., we know their sun is going to come around the ascendant, and we're going to be talking about what that might mean in just a minute. But let's say there's a baby born tomorrow at 6 a.m. What time is it really? It's going to be 5 a.m., really, right? Because we've jumped ahead. So that's my only thing you have to keep in mind when you're using this, that it does push back. It still would put a 5 a.m. birth, would still put that interpretation in the first house. So I understand I may have lost some of you with those last few comments, but again, it's foundational. I just want you to see there's a clock in the chart.